everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
And we are back with your questions, your listener submissions. We're going to go through some, but a slight twist this week, Hayden.
Oh, yeah?
Because we have set up a WhatsApp community group where you, as the listener, can join and get links directly to your phone every single Monday and Wednesday when a new episode drops. Polls on future topics, on things that we will cover on this podcast, and you can have your say as to what we talk about. But most importantly, for today's episode, Hayden, you get priority when it comes to questions you submit for us to answer. So this is where a bulk of these questions have come from today.
What more could you want in life? That's what I was thinking when you were saying that. And they probably were as well. So I'm looking forward to going through these questions then. Have we got lots this week?
We've got quite a few. So if you want to join the WhatsApp community, there'll be a link down in the description to this episode. You can click on it. You get a link. You only get WhatsApp messages from myself. It would be myself and Hayden, but Hayden doesn't do anything for the podcast, as we well know.
Listen, I'm trying to keep it on brand. As you've seen from our Instagram, there's an important part of that is you doing all of the work.
Yeah, sure.
And me not.
No problem. Let's dive straight in. So this is from a listener who's in our WhatsApp group, and they say, do you guys think suspensions work? There's often a call for them from some parents and school staff who feel there need to be a punishment for severe behaviours, which I do agree with. There must be something done, but can't help but feel that some of these kids who are suspended end up staying at home, playing PlayStation for the days they're out of school. Is it that suspensions only work for some children, those whose parents take it seriously? They should definitely be a last resort, but even then, do they work? I really can't decide. I'm so on the fence. I've got splinters in my arse.
Wow. Love the ending to that one. Very secondary sort of focus on that one, but I still think we can.
So do you think there's a difference then straight away between primary and secondary in terms of suspensions? That's interesting.
I guess I naturally think of secondary because I don't really hear of it happening in primary. I don't think I've ever really heard of it at all when happening in primary, whereas I hear it happening in secondary school all the time.
It feels like behaviours get certainly more exaggerated, more serious, don't they, in general, when it comes to secondary school as children get older?
Yeah, definitely. But when I think about whether it works or not, in all honesty, I don't think there's anything that works for everybody. It's one of those questions where I'm like, no, of course I don't think it works for everybody. I don't really think there's anything you could say, a policy in school where I'm like, yes, this works for every single child. I don't think that's true. So yeah, sure. I think suspensions, I don't intrinsically have a problem with them. Like, I don't think that they are something that doesn't work for anybody. But I can completely appreciate the idea that there will be some children who might take advantage of the fact that going home is really not that much of a punishment. But I think for most people, it probably does exactly what it says on the tin. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's you're obviously in trouble. You've been sent home from school. I think they could maybe be abused. I've heard of situations where people get suspended for things you think, did they need to be out of school for that? Like, if they missed school unnecessarily? But there, on the other side of the coin, again, there are equally times where it's like that child absolutely needed to be removed from that situation. Perhaps it was like violence or dangerous behaviour. Of course, they should be out of the classroom. So a very long-winded way of saying yes and no.
You're on the fence with this guy.
Really, genuinely. Like, I think it's case by case. It's hard not to say that.
Well, let me dive more into that because this is really interesting. I don't necessarily disagree with you whatsoever, by the way, but it does just like beg the question then. So, are we suggesting a two-tier system where some children get suspended because someone agrees that that's useful for them, and some children don't get suspended because the same people agree that's not useful for them, despite them maybe doing the same thing?
I don't think it's possible. I think that's one of those things where maybe in ideological world you could do that. And
I don't think that would be an ideological word, though, would it? Like, because it literally then, what's the deterrent? It stops becoming a deterrent, I suppose, for that child who we all agree suspensions don't work for. So do we just accept the fact that, they brought a weapon into school, but suspensions don't work for that kid? Nah, so we won't do it.
Yeah.
Like, there does obviously come a point where if you are a danger to the rest of the children, it doesn't matter whether it works or not for that one individual child. You've got to put into account the rest of the children and the school as a whole, that actually, sure, this might not be the best thing for you right now in terms of your education as an individual, but I tell you what, it's the best thing for hundreds of other kids.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and it definitely raises the two things to think about with suspension, which is it's not exclusively about that child being punished, is it? It might be literally about removing that child for the sake of everybody else, which I think is a really valid point. I wasn't really thinking of that before. So yeah, in that situation, do you know what? It doesn't matter that child might not be getting the full extent of the punishment because maybe their parents don't care as much or whatever they were saying. They want to play. They let them play PlayStation or whatever they said. Because really it was just about them not being there for the sake of the other children. So yeah, okay, I think that exists. But does it? I mean, what do you think? Are you swayed one way or the other? Would you if you had the power to control this, would you be like, yeah, suspensions are good, leave them in, I like them as that they work enough, leave them be, or would you change it?
Every fibre of my being doesn't like the idea of excluding a child from education. Like it feels to me as if every child has the right to an education, and denying them that should be the absolute last resort, I think, for cases where safety of other children or other adults in the school. There are certain things a child does that I think should be an automatic suspension if they're a certain severity. We can decide what that line is between us. But so I do think they should exist for certain points. However, I find it tricky, and I don't like it when it can feel like the easy option sometimes. When there's maybe an underlying cause or a root reason as to why a child is behaving in that way or not participating, etc., whether it is the home life, whether it is a diagnosed need, an undiagnosed need. Those things clearly exist. And I think it becomes a reductive conversation, I think, personally, when there are people out there who say, every single time a child does something, it's for a reason and it can be explained and it's not their fault. I think that's quite a reductive thing to say, simply because I agree that for a lot of children, there are going to be, it's the symptom of an underlying cause that we should be working to fix that. And suspensions ignore that and aren't helpful. But I do think that there are some cases where, even if that's true, and I don't think it's true all the time, but even if that is true, you do just have to not be in the school building now for a few days because of the severity of what you've done. So I think, this debate can become quite reductive and quite binary, where it's like, I fundamentally disagree with this notion of suspensions, therefore they should never happen. Versus, suspensions are fine, it's down to school discretion, we get to choose, and they can then be abused, and more children that should be suspended end up being suspended. There are two sides to this argument, and I think, again, like almost every single time we have these deeper debates, it feels like you've got to gravitate towards one option, and I just feel as if both of those aren't very helpful.
There's pros and cons to both, isn't there? I always think of that. I'm like, if we keep suspensions in, there's pros and there's cons. If we get rid of suspensions, there's pros and there's cons. So you got to pick what's the best of the two options. Do you know what I mean? Because they both come with drawbacks.
I think there has to be a form of suspension for some things. I think saying there doesn't is harmful in certain situations to more people than one. And that could be the one child who unfortunately is suspended. And
perhaps the argument might be a bit more around the tightening of rules and regulations on how suspensions are used and issued and how it all works. You know what I mean? That might be that actual debate to have.
And all of this has to be in the backdrop of talking about and understanding what the root causes of a lot of these behaviors might be. And it's not necessarily on an individual basis saying, oh, it's okay you brought that weapon into school because of the underlying societal structures that are around poorer families. Okay, that could be and probably is a long-term fundamental reason why that happened. But for that individual child, there has to be some kind of individual retribution here, where there are also other people in that same background who've had that same upbringing, who live in the same society, who didn't bring a weapon into school. So there has to be a point where you're just like, listen, I think there needs to be conversations about fixing this long-term and not just trying to patch up the symptoms, but actually going to the root cause. That has to be going alongside this. And I'm not ignoring that by saying sometimes, though, you do have to be suspended.
Definitely. You can just have both. It sounds to me like, through the complexity that you're putting out here, that it sounds like you're being a very lefty, wokey, beta male, whatever you got called that time or someone on Instagram.
And what's great is, if a different person hears it, I'd be a right-wing lunatic reformer. So, you call me what you will. But, I like these conversations because I feel like, they can be tough to have sometimes, because I actually really hate the idea of being put in a box. And if a lot of the time, this happens a lot with us in general now, just going wider. Let's say I cut what we just said and put it into a reel. I could cut one half of that conversation and I'd have a bunch of people saying I'm a lefty wokey teacher who doesn't care about behavior, or that's why kids are going loose these days. I could cut the second half of what we just said and I'd have a bunch of people saying you don't care about kids, you don't understand, don't you care about the underlying causes and the top down beating of society, that's the reason why everyone misbehaves. It comes to a point where I'm just like, okay, we can't have a discussion, can we? We can't talk about this because what's the point? Because you've heard me say one sentence and you've just assumed absolutely everything about me. And I hate that about the current discourse.
Is the problem with Instagram Reels and just generally short form content. It's hard to get across.
We should do some kind of longer form podcast or something.
I don't know.
If only on Instagram, the actual name of the literal account that people are watching, and at the end it had a little title that says watch the full podcast. I don't know. If only.
One of these days, mate. One of these days.
Right, let's get another one from the WhatsApp group. Had loads, by the way. Very, very grateful. Make sure you join. You can only have an endless supply of one of the following. in your classroom, what are you choosing?
Whisper golds, whisper golds, whisper golds.
Oh, not on the list. Not on the list. Not on the list.
Go on.
Glue sticks,
Yeah.
handwriting pens,
Oh,
or whiteboard pens for the children.
oh, God. What a horrible question. This is the most serious question we've had on this podcast.
Forget suspensions.
I'm going handwriting pens.
Same.
You tell me why first.
Well, okay. So firstly, you know Sophie B, our mate.
Of course.
She did a poll about what would you pick, and one of them was about glue sticks. And her point was, why would you pick loads of glue sticks? Because you could just not stick in sheets.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
And I was like, so my initial reaction to that was, yeah, but I've got to stick in sheets. And I was like, then I really thought about it, and I was like, nah, she's dead right, actually.
Yeah, she's right.
Because realistically, we should, firstly, if you don't have loads of glue sticks because you're not loads of stuff to stick in, you're printing less, you're using less paper. So the answer is not that we need glue, well, obviously we need glue sticks and it's great, right? But let's move towards a society where we don't need glue sticks.
Yeah, my thinking was the same. Obviously, Sophie's my BFF, so it makes sense that we'd think in the same way.
Yeah,
so I was exactly there. Whereas I was like, writing, we need to write. I guess you could say, oh, geez, pencils.
Am I not your BFF?
Well, you're like my F. Do you know? Like
You're my
F.
HB.
You're my forever.
My homogeneous blob.
Yeah. Oh, babe. I'm the HB. If you don't get that reference, go back a few episodes.
I've just remembered.
Go on,
it was from the last Q&A, right?
Yeah.
That was what HB was from. I've just remembered there was something in an episode where I said, I'll explain it next week.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you won't. And I've forgotten.
Yeah, you forgot.
I remember saying I'll explain something, but I can't remember what it was.
I tell you what, I've sort of remembered it. It was something to do with like a film quote.
Oh, yes.
And you
yes.
said, I'll say it at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I said, no, you won't. And you didn't.
I have spent all week thinking to myself, I'm going to say it. I'm going to whip it out, and I'd forgotten.
I can't remember. Go on, you know.
The quote was, there's a good energy in the gym. There's a good energy in the gym. And you were like, oh, it's from Rocky. I was like, mate.
I now know what it's from, but only because I've had a week to think about it. Like, it came to me a lot longer because I was like, oh my God, of course, I used to watch this film all the time.
Yeah.
Dodgeball,
yeah,
right?
Ben Stiller, who runs Globo Gym.
Yeah.
And he's there on a big screen at the top going, there's a good energy in the gym. And he's just pointing around at different people.
I've forgotten how funny I found that. Do you know what? It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if it is a good film because the last time I watched it was about 10 years ago.
No, it's amazing.
It might have just been young me finding it funny and I'd watch it now. You know when you watch something back, you're like, this is well funny, guys. It's well funny. I used to watch this as a kid and you watch
it's
it.
Rubbish.
And it's cringe and it's rubbish. And you're like, oh, my humour's changed. But I don't know. I
We
reckon
still
it's
watch party.
Yeah.
Dodgeball. So in answer to this question, end the supply of dodgeball on the TV.
Yes,
is what I get.
please.
No, I agree with handwriting pens. Whiteboard pens, can I just say, this might be quite controversial. I, for the last 3-4 years of my career, didn't use whiteboards and whiteboard pens.
What at all?
No, with the kids, as in with the kids.
That's interesting. What did you do in
didn't like it. Wound me up.
What did
Faffy.
you do in this place? Like,
we just did wrote down in the back of our books. Used paper in the back of our
fair
books, or did discussion based stuff, or wrote on our page for our lesson. So I did a lot. For example, in maths, when I want to get them to don't get me wrong. What I'm not saying the kids shouldn't be doing things throughout the lesson to practice their stuff.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that the actual use of whiteboards and whiteboard pens, I found faffy, annoying. The kids would be scribbling, drawing, rubbing things out. Pens would run out. Have you got a rubber? No, I haven't got a rubber. I've given you a rubber 3 days in a row. Where's the rubber I gave you yesterday and the day
Use
before?
your sleeve, mate.
And the day literally. So it just wound me up, and it got to the point where I was like, do you know what? No. So what we used to do a lot of the time in maths, we'd keep our book open after setting up the date and the Walt and stuff, the learning objective. And isn't it weird saying Walt? There's someone who doesn't know. What do you mean setting up the Walt?
What is a Walt?
Walter White.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
We are learning to.
Yeah. And I'd keep the book open, and then we'd do some input. I'd do some modelling, do some partner work, and I'd say, have a go. And they'd write it in their book. So they do it because it's still part of the learning objective, obviously. But their book would have a few practice questions that are modelled. Then they'd start their individual task underneath. So the kids were still doing everything they would have done.
Yeah, of course.
But without faffy whiteboards.
Yeah.
Wind me up.
Yeah, it does make sense because now I think about it, I used whiteboards considerably less towards the end of my career than the beginning. Probably for the same reason, really. And some kids just genuinely hate writing on whiteboards. I don't
true.
really, I know it's little whiteboards. I wouldn't really like, you got really fat pen and they're always it's like a 90% chance you're getting one that's like almost out of ink.
Yeah. Exactly,
I'm like, how can they all be nearly out of ink all the time?
It's just another thing in school that we don't have enough of that I'm putting into my lessons constantly. And it just winds me up.
The whiteboards, they've been there for 67 years and they're all like completely tattered and they've got so many layers of like dried ink on them.
They've got maths on it from 3 years ago. They know the answer because it's on the board already.
And you know why? It's because there's no rubbers to rub them out, so they just get left there. And at the end of the year, they're baked on. Yeah, I know what you mean. Whiteboards are a bit of a pain.
I'd also have a bit of a lot of children who they do their working out, it'd be beautiful, they get it right. I'm like, right, rub it off, do another one, and they'd be like, what? And they'd hate rubbing out all their work. And then it would become low stakes, which I know it's a good thing to have low stakes work sometimes because they're just trying stuff. Doesn't matter if they get it wrong. But I think what you do is you just tackle that and you say, I don't care if you get it wrong or not. I just want to see you trying it in your book. And then that becomes okay then.
One of the best things we ever did with our school when we were maths leads, I was maths lead, obviously you were assistant to the maths lead, was we implemented the whole back of the workbook. Back of the workbook. Back of the book. Because it was great, because it was, like you said, when stuff wasn't super low stakes and actually the kids could have a bit of pride in the starter that you're doing, it was nice to record it. And as a teacher, you did then have the option, if you really wanted to, you could have a look at what they were doing in the back. We quite often said, we're not going to look at this, kids. This is what you'd be doing on your whiteboards. Just get it down on paper. They can practice the format. They can put it in boxes. And like I said, as a teacher, you can then have a little look and be like, oh yeah, they were doing this wrong or whatever. To
clarify, what you mean is at the start of the lesson, we'd always do, we'd have 15, 20, 25 minutes of every single lesson, which was down to the teacher recapping stuff that your kids need to go over, or doing a bit of pre-teaching, or just doing an extra bit of work, basically, that we wanted to separate from the lesson. So you're right. You had kids practicing, and I think this is so important. It's so important to get kids on paper as well. It doesn't matter where the questions come from. The question could be on the board. The question could be on an iPad. The question could be anywhere. But it's important that the children are practicing on squared paper as well, writing it out, because that's what they're going to do eventually as well in their test. So I thought that worked really well, and we've really gone off a tangent here of handwriting pens and whiteboard pens. We're getting excited about maths.
It was a good meme question, and became the deepest question of the episode. So
there was a PS, by the way, on this. PS, love the podcast. You're both doing a great job at being a voice for teachers.
Ooh.
So I think most teachers do also hate whiteboards. That must be true.
PThank you. That's really nice. You also did a really nice Donald Trump pose as you said that. Love you guys.
Oh, let's not mention that guy on here. A polarizing review bomb from some people
from Donald Trump.
Get ready for a truth later on. The good guys at Teach Sleep Repeat. I had such fondness for them.
Oh, where's that actually going?
No. But it turned out to be negative eventually. He hates us now because we didn't say that I should win a Nobel Peace Prize. The guys at Teach Sleep Repeat, they're not backing me for a Nobel Peace Prize. They're saying I shouldn't win a Nobel Peace Prize. I've done the most for maths. I even started calling it maths and not math like we do in this country. Make America great again. Make math great again.
Wow.
Maths.
Thank you, Sir Donald Trump.
Oh, please God, what are we doing here?
Should we get my pod?
No, we should. Do you know what? That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
I mean, if he offered.
I've always thought to myself, by the way, on this very quickly, I know we're really going off tangents here, but I want to know from the listeners as well, would you actually want to hear us talk to more people at government?
Yeah, please.
Just not these two, please.
More people.
These two talking again. Because we did that Greg Jenner episode last week, right? Yeah. And I think, obviously, we've got more listeners than ever before from when we've done guests previously. But I felt like I had so many people get in touch and say, oh my God, I absolutely loved that episode, because Greg's obviously amazing at what he does. He's an amazing historian. He runs podcasts, etc. But I'm just thinking, would the listeners want to hear more from people in government? People who have more power and just what kind of guests do you want to see? So I guess I'm just whacking out there to you now. Maybe you could join our WhatsApp group.
Oh, I was about to say, you ruined my thing, Dylan. I'm sat here quietly thinking, I'm going to mention the polls. I'm going to mention a poll in the WhatsApp community. I'm going to mention a poll. And
we could do suggestions of who you want to hear us talk to. Because coming full circle back to Donald Trump, who I obviously think is an idiot. I'm just going to say that.
A lunatic.
But I would absolutely talk to him on a podcast.
Yeah, of course.
And there's people out there who will go, you shouldn't be giving them platforms and all this stuff. I talk to anyone. I talk to those reform people who've been on the thing saying, in our schools they're just brainwashing our kids. I'd love to talk to them, because I'd be like, what do you mean? I'd love to get to the bottom of what they're
solution?
saying.
Yeah, I think they'd be good guests. Hopefully you guys agree, because if not, we'll do it anyway. By the sounds of it. Dylan's made his mind up. Dylan's mind is made.
No. We'll just we'll see. Right, let's try another one. I am going to go to Instagram. Don't worry. I am going to do some Instagram questions. Don't worry, it will come. But there were just so many great questions from this WhatsApp group.
Really selling that group there, Dylan.
Yeah, it's great. Get in there, because we're going to pick your question. Hi, I'm a trainee. I'm not this person. Just so you.
I did get that. Yeah.
This is the question.
In all honesty.
Yeah, I'm not just starting to talk to you about.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarity.
Cool. Hi, I'm a trainee, not me.
Yeah, not you. Still.
Trainee teacher. So completely new to, I'm not new to it.
No, it's the guy. It's the
this person.
Yeah, cool,
completely new to all this. You talk a lot about prioritizing tasks as well as recognizing toxic schools. But if you have nothing to reference this, how do you recognize which tasks are important and what practices are toxic? I'm feeling quite overwhelmed with the 1,000,001 tasks my lecturers will randomly say, oh yeah, you should read through that, or you should practice this, or you should research that topic at home. If I did each task they said, I would literally never sleep. This is from Emma.
Such a good question, Emma. Thank you. Because I remember, and we've talked about it on this podcast before, I remember feeling the same. The earlier you are on in your career, and obviously you're like super early on because you're still training.
I'm not. Emma is.
Yeah, no, you're not Emma, are you?
I'm not Emma.
No, I'm just checking you're not Emma.
I'm reading from the point of view of the...
Oh, I tell you what, that changes things. Yeah, so I'm not going to deny that it is way harder then because you just literally have less reference points because you haven't been doing it as long. When you've been at a couple of schools and you've worked for 10 years, you start to get the hang of, hang on a minute, I've seen this before, that was pointless. But I think my only advice, if I'm thinking about, again, just talking to myself in those early days as well, is just really, really try. There's two things actually. Really try to think logically about every single task and just think to yourself, if I didn't do it, what do I think the outcome would be? Because there are some things that are blindingly obvious where it's like, that would be terrible. If you didn't plan that lesson and then you went to teach it, that would just be dreadful. Whereas there are some other things that you might think, that probably wouldn't be so bad. You know what? That might just help you prioritize your list a bit more. I think as a trainee teacher, you should try and do as much as you can, like absorb it whilst you've got that support network there. But speaking of support networks, that's my other point is when you don't have that reference point, go out of your way to try and like connect with other people. Maybe you can talk to some teachers in the school that you're doing your placement on and just really try and connect with people that have got that bit of experience that can help you decide whether something is like a high priority task or a low priority task or just not worth doing at all, and just use them until it becomes second nature for you. That's my sort of two prongs to that.
Yeah, I think when you're a trainee teacher, a lot of the time you're being reflective is the most important thing. Like I do feel like when you're at the earliest point of your career as a teacher, you are going to try most things at least once, and you are going to get to the point where you feel like you're doing loads and loads and loads. And I think what's really important is to quickly be reflective on that. That's the advice I'd give, which is, try stuff. See. And then if you're thinking, oh God, I am really burning out, then once you've tried it, you can be like, okay, actually, do you know what? I've done these 5 things. Two of them were clearly the least important. So I will just try next time to not do them and see how that impacts my practice. And like you said, some stuff is really obvious, but I would go back to when you mentioned here about how, the lecturers might randomly drop in like, oh yeah, you should read through that. Oh yeah, by the way, you should practice this. Oh yeah, okay, of course. Why don't you research that topic at home? Because it's really interesting. You have to take that all with a pinch of salt. Yeah. You have to understand that when they're dropping that into the lecture, there's one of two things happening. Number one, either they've completely lost touch with what it's like to be a teacher and they just don't fathom the fact that you obviously don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
And at that point, you have to just be like, look, it's great, but I'm just not going to do it. Or they are just genuinely being nice and giving suggestions. And they're like, yeah, you could try that. Yeah, if you have a bit of extra time, you want to do that. But don't cancel your evening class that you go and do at the gym. Don't not meet up with your mate because your lecturer said in passing once you should research this topic. You can learn things on the job. And if I look back at my career, what my advice would be to you as a trainee teacher, so you're not even qualified yet, do everything you can, but you have to, at that point, it's hard to do, but if you can take control of your time management sooner rather than later and just try different things and try not doing one thing and seeing how it ends up, I think that will set you in good stead for your ECT year. I think that will set you in good stead for the rest of your career, because if you start to get that right early, you're not going to get it right straight away. And I can see why you're burning out, because a lot of trainee teachers do it. It's tough.
Yeah.
That trainee year is such a big leap, I think, between doing all your research and your uni lectures, as well as then doing all your placements where you essentially become a teacher.
Yep.
It's not easy. It is hard work. I don't think there's a way to make it not hard work, but there is a way for your attitude to be reflective and quickly act on things that you figure out are less important and do less of them.
Yeah. I have a small follow-up question for you as well. And I want to be really, really honest. When you were at university and the lecturers are sort of saying, oh yeah, you should just read this book. Like, this is fantastic for behavior management. This book's fantastic for this pedagogy. How many of those books did you actually pick up and read cover to cover?
Like 5%.
That's generous.
No, because I think I remember reading 1 or 2.
Book cover to cover, whole thing.
Oh yeah. Well, cover to cover, none.
Yeah, no,
absolutely none. Because I also don't think that's a good use of your time.
Yeah.
A lot of the time with these kind of things, you can skip to a chapter that's relevant.
Yeah.
You might get some reading where it's like, oh yeah, chapter 12 does this because of that. it's physically impossible to do everything unless you are literally a bookworm and that is your life and that becomes your hobby.
Yeah.
Crack on and do that. But realistically, for a normal person who doesn't have a massive interest in like the psychological
Who's not
aspects
Matilda.
of it, yeah, literally, who wants to go and play five-a-side football in the evening instead of reading a book cover to cover, it's just not realistic. And I think just be sensible with your time. When I was a trainee teacher, in terms of my week, right, I would probably spend 60 to 70 hours of my week doing school related stuff.
Yeah.
And that is completely unsustainable. You can't keep that up.
No.
It's impossible. At the point, a huge chunk of that was because I wanted to do it and I enjoyed it and I liked it. But there was still 5 to 10 to 15 hours a week probably where I could have just not done something.
Yeah.
I could have done less. Look, would I have been in as good stead eventually to in the end goal when I'm in my NQT year or 1, 2, 3 years down the line, being more confident to push things back because I feel better at something? That's hard for me to tell. I don't know if those hours that I put in allowed me to, strip things back quicker.
Yeah, sure.
But I do think that if I'm talking to a trainee teacher like you, Emma, who's asked this question, I think you have to not beat yourself up if you don't do everything. And you have to understand that you have to have a life.
Yep.
And if you're being asked to do things that end up burning you out completely and you literally don't have time to do it, that you're being asked to do too much. And you can still be successful without having to get to that level.
Yeah. And everyone's lives are different. I remember training in the same sort of position to you. I had all this time I could spend on it, and I did. And there were other people that were training who didn't. They did not have that time. I had some students who were parents already, and they did not have the time that I had to sink into this stuff. And you know what? It was fine.
Yeah.
Did I read a book cover to cover? Absolutely not. Did I still pick up lots of pedagogical things that improve my teaching? Yeah, of course I did. Did I occasionally read summaries? Yeah, I've been mostly summaries. If I had ChatGPT then I would have been laughing.
Yeah, but that's the issue. That's the issue now with ChatGPT. At least a summary of a book is written by the author.
Yeah.
The problem you have now with summaries and etc. and ChatGPT, there's been multiple times where you've come to me saying, "Yeah, I got this summary of ChatGPT," and it's been completely wrong.
Yeah,
so let's not be saying that, Hayden, to all our listeners out there. Yeah, you got ChatGPT now. No, still get the book, still read the summary, still go to the source itself, and just take things like that with a pinch of salt when you're in your academia. That's for sure.
No, fair play.
Right, before we crack on with some Instagram questions, just a quick reminder that people, you can rate this podcast wherever you get your podcast from. Really helps us out, and share it with a friend. That's it. That's the segment.
That's it.
That's done. Just share it, rate it. We're happy.
Enjoy the WhatsApp group.
WhatsApp group is lovely. Right, this question is from Instagram because we're not going to leave you out, you Instagrammers, if you've not chosen to join the WhatsApp group for some reason. I don't know. You could join it though. Okay, this is like an amalgamation of 3 separate questions that we got. So clearly people want to hear this from us.
Okay.
So I'm going to summarize it in one question.
Right.
How did it feel when September came along and you were not in the classroom anymore? How did that transition work for you? How are you feeling now? Do you regret it at all, or do you think it was the right decision?
I think that's a really good question. I'm going to try not to be silly, if you know what I mean, because my gut reaction there was like, yeah, well, good.
Yeah, no. Let's be really serious. Honestly, I'm actually really interested to hear from you because we've spoken about it briefly, but I'm going to give the context briefly before you give your answer.
Do it.
For anyone listening now, Hayden taught for 10 years in primary school. I taught for 9 years in a primary school, and this September is the first year where we've not been in the classroom. So we don't have our own classes. We're not in school. We were part-time for a few years. We were full-time for most of our career. The first time now we've completely stepped out of it. What are your thoughts?
I was obviously, if you listen to this podcast a while, we talked a lot about the lead up to it, and we were worried. I think it's fair to say there were big parts of our brains where we're like, are we definitely making the right decision here? And I did feel like that all the way up to day one. And day one came along, and that first week in September finished. And I think my overwhelming filming, I should
I've
say.
lost the ability speaking to.
Hey, it's usually you. My overwhelming feeling was a sense of relief, and that sounds really mean, but relief for my mind in terms of I forgot how taxing on the mind being a teacher is. And if you're not a teacher, or listen to that thinking, oh, bloody teachers always moaning. There is just something to be said about the fact that you just can't escape it. It's always in your mind. I'm always, at the weekend, I'm always thinking, have I planned everything for this week? Is everything ready? Like, it's just always there. And not having that in my mind was quite freeing, I must say. It's not like we're just doing nothing now, sat around all day filming podcasts. No. I mean, that's basically it, isn't it? Yeah. Like, we were obviously busy all week with our other stuff, but there was just this like weight off my shoulders almost of, I can actually just not be constantly panicking about not having enough time. And I feel like that I had that in teaching regardless of whether we had other things going on or not.
I think the mental load relief is insane.
Yeah.
I think you absolutely just cannot fathom how much of a mental load you carry as a teacher until you stop doing it after. And I think I had a lot of people who I knew that had careers before teaching, who went into teaching and would look at us and be like, guys, you've got no idea. This is not normal for a job. This is not a normal amount to carry in your mind. And you've got 32 children's lives almost at your fingertips of like keeping them safe, keeping them engaged, keeping them learning, etc. Looking after them, special educational needs is down to you as well. Like there's so much on the teacher's mind that is so much extra to simply as well just planning good lessons and delivering them and assessing them, that you just can't fathom it. And I realized how incredibly stressful teaching is after having left it.
Yeah. Even when, I don't know about you, but I found it made me even realize that even the school holidays, even the summer holidays, which is the longest time off, it still felt different. It doesn't feel like that. Like when I was 3 weeks into the summer holidays, any previous year, thinking, this is as free as it gets, nothing to think about. It's not the same. I still felt more free than that, because there is just something to say about that workload burden on your mind of teaching.
Yeah, it's coming around.
Yeah,
it's around the corner.
It's just there. That date's come. That September 1st is coming back, and every time you think about it, you're thinking of the 19 jobs you've got to do before you even start your first day working back on the job, because that is what teaching is: constant workload outside of work, so that you can get your work done in school. Yeah. It's just work, layers of it. So I do not regret it at all. And I was worried that I would. I genuinely was. Do I miss the kids? I still miss the kids exactly as much as I thought I'd miss the kids.
Yeah.
Like that is like, I can compartmentalize that feeling. But yeah, a very, very positive change. I'm glad we did it. Like it was needed. We were getting to the point where it was like, we've got to prioritize something. We don't have enough time to do the things we want to do outside of school.
Exactly.
And school. And I'm pleased we made the change.
The biggest thing I noticed is in the evenings, I don't feel like a zombie. Like it's insane as well. When you do a day in the school, like you get to the end of the day and you think, oh God, okay, right, I'm just going to sit down. And I don't feel like I can do anything else.
No.
Whereas now this flexibility and this freedom, like I feel like a human. I feel like a human at 6:30 in the evening, which I've spent my whole life not feeling like after a day of school. And I've done a day of work. This is what I can't get my head around. It's like I've done a day of work. And I think it'd be interesting for people listening, actually, just very briefly, if we could just go through like what a week looks for us now. So I think a big thing for us is with teaching, obviously it's our absolute, it's our joy. It's what brought us pleasure. We absolutely love teaching children and helping them. And so, we still want to do that. We're still in education. So for example, we block out a day for podcasts now.
Yep.
We'll film the main podcast and we'll film the Q&A and we'll do this. And then we might think about some content for online, etc. And what we can do on our socials. And then for another day, we'll be thinking, cool, well, we've got our tutoring business now. We work with teachers still. Some of our good friends who we've known since the start of our career. I always think to the fact that the person who literally trained me now works with me in our tutoring company and is a big part of what we do. And I love that. I love that idea of working with teaching staff. We still deliver like lessons to children. We're making content and videos for children to watch and improve their maths and their English. So we're still getting that teaching fix.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important, and we can just kind of, just flirt this idea out there right now, is we're also working on something for schools to use with maths. And maths is our passion. It's our joy. It's what I love. It's what I think I'm good at. And we're working on something that can hopefully help thousands of children.
Yeah.
And this idea of being able to unlock, brilliant, this bond you have with your class is special and nothing will replace that. But at the very least, if I'm not doing that anymore, I can now be working on something else where I can hopefully have an impact on 100, 1,000 times more children whilst doing what I love and not having a brain full of fuzz and just 67 jobs I've been told I've got to do by the end of the day, which I just can't do. It's so freeing. And I think to answer the question, I think it's the best decision we've made, which is sad at the same time.
It's sad.
I wish it wasn't the best decision I made. I wish I could be teaching until I retire and it'd be realistic, but the job's insane now. It's just insane. And I think you can get a lot of the good parts of the job in other avenues, which is not necessarily a good thing for our society. People like us should be teachers. We should be teachers. And it's sad that it's got to the point where 40,000 of us leave every year because it's just completely broken. So I'm relieved. I'm happy. On a personal note, I think it's the best thing we've done, but I'm sad that that's the case.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel exactly the same. But I think the sad thing is really important because I don't want anyone thinking, oh, they just don't care anymore, they're gone. No, I care a lot, actually. Like, I don't think I'll be able to replace the love for teaching I had when I loved teaching the most in my career, whenever that was, maybe a couple of years in when I'm still in that honeymoon period. And maybe even compared to other people who say, yeah, back in the 90s, like, I was my time that I loved teaching so much, and it's just not the same anymore. It's a shame. It shouldn't be that way. People should want to be teachers for their whole career. And I honestly don't know anyone that does. I genuinely don't know any teacher who would say to me, yeah, I'm buzzing to do this till I retire. They're all saying, oh no, this is completely unsustainable. I will not be able to do this until I retire. That is not a conversation that should be had from teachers. But yeah, bit of sneaky peek there to what we're doing. Who'd have thunk it, eh? That me and you would immediately quit teaching and immediately start working on something maths related, as if we love maths. Be maths leads forever in our schools. But there we are. That's some stuff to reveal. If only we had a place to reveal it at some point.
Oh, keep quiet, guys. And we'll be looking for your advice too, honestly. So we're looking for your opinions. Maybe I can join the WhatsApp group. I don't know. It's down below. Okay, question from our little group we have. I find it hard to create displays that have any effect on children, with the exception of displays that celebrate children's success. Before I finish the question, I feel like that is such a common thing.
Yeah.
When we've talked about displays before, it's like a lot of people will say, no, they're fine, but just when it's like whack the work up.
Yeah.
And it's like a nice little, if you do great work, your work's gone on the wall. Yeah. And that can have like a really good impact. Let me carry on. If time, money, resources had no limits, what displays would you have in your classrooms to have the biggest impact on children? Alternatively, in a more realistic world, what displays do you think currently have the biggest impact?
Okay, it's like I wrote this question. Talk to myself, shall I? Because I feel like what the person that wrote this is probably thinking what I already think based on the way they've worded it.
It's a good question, though, I think.
It is a really good question, because I would only pick, even with all the money and resources, wow displays. If I'm thinking I've had loads of money and resources, I'd be like, okay, let's make some really cool displays that are inspiring. Like, I'm thinking particularly for topics or history.
What would be on it? What would be on a wow display?
Literally just like really interesting, fun, visual, creative things to like literally make someone be like, oh, that looks cool. I wonder what that's about. History. Oh, we're gonna be learning about that topic, Mr. Stevens. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's not filled with facts and we've got to get your key vocabulary. None of that rubbish.
But it could have some facts on it, right?
No, probably not.
Really?
I mean, it might do.
No, like, did you know the Egyptians did this? The same thing we said, like, could inspire them. You could have something like that.
If it's through the lens of it's inspiring them and it's wow, that's fine. But if it's like, I've got to get this up there because the cricket is a tick box, then no, just get in the bin. That and displaying kids' work. I think displaying kids' work is literally the best, hands down, top of the hierarchy way to use a display. And I've always felt like that in my career, and I've always found it weird that that's kind of being pushed down to the bottom, and it's like, oh, now you've got to have this display that has the current text that you're reading on it and all the vocabulary from. I'm like, yeah, I get the idea of this, but can I, instead of doing that, can I just put their writing on the wall? Because they'll love that way more and look at it, and they don't look at the thing like it's not used the other way. Because did you know it's 2025 and I've got a smart board that has all of this stuff right in front of them when I need it, so I don't really need it over there. Like, to me, those displays at the bottom, I would pick wow displays and displaying children's work, celebration displays. Even if I had all the money and time in the world, I'd still pick them too.
What about like notice boards or class roles or all that kind of stuff?
I'm kind of ignoring those. You might have that in the corner somewhere. That's fine. You have a one-off thing for your
so
class
do you think then, like, someone's, because a lot of people have said, a lot of people hype up working walls. And what I mean by working wall is like, let's say maths. I know for a fact in your actual classroom, you had like a whiteboard paper that you could put up, and you had that wow wall there, and you set that up as like a working wall. Sorry, not a wow wall, a working wall where if you're doing place value, maybe you'll go and model something on the wall and keep it up. I find it hard to argue with someone when they say it's really good and useful for their class, so like that's a good thing. I'm like, I find it tricky to come back and be like, no, it's not. So because of course it could be, but are you not having it then, or
not in my world? No. Honestly, like if I'm being brutally honest, because I have experimented with these things as well. After a time, I just stopped using them.
Is that your fault though? Is that bad? Is that just you being bad?
I don't think so. I don't think it was an accident. I stopped using them. I think I stopped using things when I see no value in them anymore. I think that's just me as a teacher. I do things less when I have evaluated in my mind. Oh, that's not useful.
So is whatever you do the right thing? Is what you're saying?
For me, it is. Yeah, not for everybody, because I genuinely think someone next door to me will use their working wall as a genuinely valid tool to replace something that I might do. Like, the only reason I would choose in my classroom not to do something is because I feel like whatever benefits that thing is doing, I'm already providing that through some other teaching practice of my own style. That's it. So whatever that working wall did, do you know what I had in my particular classroom, and this is specific to me, is I had an actual massive whiteboard right next to my smartboard. And whatever I did in that working wall, do you know what I ended up doing? I just ended up putting it on the whiteboard that's literally in front of them, rather than the small working wall that was on the side of the room. And it just became redundant. And I was like, yeah, it was a cool idea. I gave it a go for a bit. It made no difference, no impact. I evaluated that as a teacher, and I was like, oh, I don't need to do this. This is a waste of my time. And I think a lot of teachers would be in the same boat. And I think other teachers wouldn't. And they'd be like, no, I don't have the luxury of having this massive whiteboard at the front where you can just leave stuff up there whilst you're teaching on your smartboard. This working wall does that for me. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. That's cool. But I don't think they're essential. Whereas if I had to have classic displays in my classroom, and I'm picking what,
but they're not essential either, right?
They're not essential, no. So if I'm just picking, so nothing's essential, I guess you could say, really, isn't it? So if I'm just picking, I'm like, in a universal sense, I think having stuff that inspires kids and makes them feel great about themselves is like, yeah, I'd pick that. I'd pick that over the working wall. Yeah. In all honesty, and I'd find another way to teach the kids, like a working wall's just a tool.
So is there anything that you think then transcends your personal opinion as a teacher and is just better practice, and whether you like it or not, you should just do it? Like, so for example, if some research come out and they said, do you know, it is just better to have a working wall. It's just better because it can be up them. You're going to use the whiteboard for something else after. It's a special place on the wall. There's some research behind this which says that this is on the whole better for children. Is there a point as a teacher, and I'm talking across the board now, I'm making a macro point, where actually, do you know what? So I don't care if your opinion is you don't like something. It is just better for them, based in research, based in the general outcomes of the kids. And the fact you don't like it isn't enough. And actually, Hayden, you should just do it.
I think that line exists in general. I think there are things you could probably say. Speaking to the children in monotone is a lot worse in all situations than speaking with some interest in your voice and intonation or whatever. Like, I know that's a really stupid example, but I was trying to think of something mental. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, well, obviously we can just set that bar and say, yeah, of course, that's just better for everyone. Even if you didn't like it. I love speaking in monotone though. Well, you just don't, because it is better to do it this way. I just don't think working walls falls into it. I don't. I think it is case by case only. It cannot be blanket. It just can't.
But is that again your opinion?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. So what I mean is, like, if someone, if equally someone in leadership had a different opinion, and they just said, do you know what? I think we do all need to do this. It's my opinion that we do, and it's your opinion that you don't. Should you just do it? Should you listen to your leadership and be like, okay, they want me to do this working wall thing. I'm doing it anyway on this whiteboard. The only difference for me would be I'd have to walk over and do it over there.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying here is, would you say to someone, you just have to swallow your pride and do it? And the fact that you just thinking, oh, I personally don't see the point in this, tough. Should you just do it? Or should you, in the opposite way, say, actually, the problem here is that you are from the top down telling me I should do these things, and that's wrong.
It's that one, really, isn't it? To me, I'm like, I think you should swallow your pride and do it. At the end of the day, we have to have some hierarchy in a school. I get that we're always like advocates for, we shouldn't do certain things. Yeah, it's great, but you can also be respectful in that way as well. We've mentioned it before on the pod. You can come across quite rude by just refusing to do something, when actually it might be better to do it for a bit and then go with evidence and say, oh, look, this didn't make any impact. Do you mind if we have a review this? And I've got evidence for you, rather than do it because it's my opinion. I do think that is, but I've learned that the hard way through my career. That is just being stubborn and arrogant like that. You don't always get what you want.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because my worry is, if you go down the route of simply, research says this, children learn best from direct instruction, there has to be a partner talk and then a retrieval task and then a task of this, and we use this scheme because it goes through all of these parts and it has to be really rigid.
Yeah,
I see that. I see that personally as a negative. And when we talked about that on TikTok, we said it's becoming, teachers clap 3 times, do this, do that, jump through hoops, everything has to look the same. And our point was that, as teachers, we have to be designers in some respect. We have to be able to be trusted, having done training on how to different pedagogical techniques and how to deliver a curriculum and how to inspire children. We have to be able to have some freedom to do stuff differently that we as a professional, see fit to get the outcomes. And someone, I remember someone commented on that TikTok saying like, this is such a bad take. Like, this is just a personal opinion. Kids learn better through direct instruction, through retrieval practice, through it looking the same, and lessons should be consistent because it's better for learners, and you should have dual coding on every slide because it's better for learners. And I guess that's what prompted me to have a bit of, I still think my point stands.
Yeah.
But, okay, dual coding, for example, having a small picture next to something to, have a visual cue for a child.
Yep.
It's obviously always better to have that, right? It's clearly always better to have some dual coding, but should you then have to do it every single time ever because it is just better? Or is it okay sometimes to not have it?
Yeah, I think the best option is always the perfect middle ground between not stifling a teacher's unique creativity and style in the classroom by not having too much of these like strict rules in place, but also providing really good training to staff to say, hey, this is dual coding, but you're all professionals and intelligent and are qualified and are literally working this job. Here is a really interesting bit of pedagogy that you might want to use in your classrooms. This is how you can use it. I would like to see it being used in some capacity. Like there's a better middle ground rather than, cool, so now every lesson for every word, regardless of whether you think it's more impactful or less impactful in this every bespoke situation, you have to use it now and you'll be graded equally based on that. And if I don't see it in this art lesson and I do see it in this history lesson, then that's terrible. So do you know what? Just give them a bit of freedom. You've taught them what dual coding is. Let the professional now decide where to use that pedagogy. That's the way I see it. I don't see it. Same with working walls. I don't have a problem with people using working walls. I don't think I've ever said that. I've always been quite steadfast in that I just don't personally like using them in the same way I don't personally like using certain displays because they just don't fit my style. I end up neglecting them, and then ironically they're even less impactful because now I've wasted a display because I'm not even using it properly.
It's so true.
So it's like there's no point pretending that I'm going to use it. Let's just accept that my style is a bit different and I'll do something else there that is impactful in my own way. And I think the best schools just look at that and go, cool, every teacher's different. I'm going to empower you all with a bunch of pedagogies. We're not going to make some top-down blanket rule like where we have 19 layers of it to make sure that now that none of you're all completely prescriptive teachers now, and all creativity from you individually has been stripped.
In terms of creating the lesson, because this person was like, well, you can still deliver it in a different way. You can still have your action. And wait, I'm like, yeah, of course you can, but you know what? I don't want to do that taught task at this point.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think it's that important.
Yeah, I just think they're wrong. I think they're wrong.
Yeah.
You can't deliver it in different ways. You can't deliver it in different ways if the lesson is being prescripted so like in such small steps where it's like, well, I've obviously got to deliver this exact way now. Yeah. If they're saying you can say the words in your own way, like, come on. Yeah. That's not really what embodies like delivering a teaching in a different way. Is it like, oh, you might word that in a different way? Yeah, of course I might word it in a different sentence, but that's not the point, is it?
Yeah. Someone off the street would. Like, what do you think I've been trained in? Of course I've been trained in how to look at a curriculum and deliver an objective in a way that fits the most learners possible. It physically can't be that way. And when we've been on training, like we've been on training, for example, White Rose Maths. White Rose Maths gets such a bad time sometimes online because people will go, oh, I hate it. It's so prescriptive and it doesn't fit everyone. And I'm just like, why on earth are you giving all of the White Rose resources for each small step to every child in your classroom?
Yeah.
Of course you shouldn't do that. It's like a bank where you have your flow, but you can change the flow.
Well, what did the White Rose training tell you to do?
The White Rose training literally said it would be bad practice to just print these sheets off and give it to every child. So cool. Like what I'm saying, like when people get annoyed at stuff like that as bad or prescriptive or boring, it's sometimes because they're not using it properly as well. Yeah. And we've said a million times, we are big advocates for schemes because they can reduce workload massively, but it has to come alongside professional autonomy. If you have a scheme and it's like, no, you have to use this scheme completely as it comes perfectly, every single thing, then it becomes bad again. Like it's two separate reasons why it's bad. Without a scheme, it's just huge workload that isn't necessary because things have been created.
Inconsistency.
Exactly. It would be inconsistent. You wouldn't necessarily get all the curriculum. With a scheme, but with pure fidelity and you can't change everything, is also obviously awful because you're a trained teacher and every single bit of the fibre of your being says that. Obviously, that's not good if every single child in the whole country gets the exact same slides ever. There has to be a middle ground of, here's something that's massively reducing your workload. Here's loads of ideas, like you said. Here's some really quality training to make you a better teacher alongside these amazing resources, which has been mapped out to the curriculum really well that you can go in and check. Here you go. Instead, spend 20 minutes tweaking it. And that is the perfect middle ground. And it's just a lot of people go one way or the other. Oh, you said schemes were bad because of this. Like, no. Oh yeah, do you think teachers should just make everything from scratch?
No, just
I'm
listen.
saying we shouldn't have to dual code every single word we do ever.
Literally. I think there's a fine line between, and there's a huge difference between these things, between empowering teachers and micromanaging them.
Exactly.
Genuinely. Like, it's such a subtle difference. You might not even notice it straight away in a school.
And it's tough for leaders.
It's extremely. It's a very. That is like when we talked about leadership skills in a previous episode, and we were like, what's the best management leadership skill? That probably is up there in terms of the ability to empower people, not micromanage them. That's a really hard thing to do because you want to take control. Everyone wants to take control. You're a leader. Of course you want to control it.
If you give that autonomy, there are going to be some teachers who just don't. Like, for example, let's go back to dual coding. There'll be some teachers who do that training and never do dual coding ever.
Yeah.
And if you, like, as a leader, are like, oh, come on, it is just better though. And this is kind of what I mean. Like, this is basically what I'm saying now. It's like, okay, dual coding is just better. And okay, maybe I don't care if people use it every single time ever, but some people aren't doing it at all. So guys, you do just have to do that, please. And that person says, well, I just don't see the point. It's fine. I'll just explain what it is. Like, I don't need to dual code. I personally, as a teacher, just don't do it very well. It's like when someone says, I don't do the washing at home. I can't possibly work the dishwasher. It's like, well, you can, you just don't want to. And same with dual coding. Like, okay, you could just put a picture next to it though, but you're saying it's my professional autonomy. I don't like using pictures. It's like, okay, well, my point coming full circle is there are some things where it's just like, you can be just dictated to do something because it is just better.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think working walls comes under that. I'm actually with you. I'm playing devil's advocate slightly here with this conversation. But I do think there are just some things where a teacher saying, well, it's not my style, isn't actually enough of a good reason to not do something.
So the kind of like summary in my head now, how I'm seeing this is very much a linear scale of is completely okay to be 100% prescriptive. As in, like, yeah, you do have to talk to the kids. That's it's not my style to talk. I prefer to do it just sort of. We just look.
In the school. I like actually teaching from home.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's like, you can have that exists.
Yeah.
And then there's the other end of the scale, which is like complete autonomy. It is pure opinion. And I think everything just fits on there.
Yeah, right.
And I think like you can have discrepancies between working walls and dual coding.
Yeah.
Dual coding can be a little bit closer to the prescriptive side than working walls, and they're still both up for a debate.
Yeah.
And there still can be opinions, and teachers can still have a bit more autonomy on one of them than the other. But like, it doesn't have to, everything's so black and white, isn't it? All the time. People like everything being so black and white, ones and zeros, and I'm like, it's just not though.
And I think ultimately as well, when you sat there and you ideologically are planting these things on how they should be prescriptive, or a bit of autonomy, but we need to see a bit of it. Oh, it'd be nice to see every now and then, or I don't care, teachers can do it or not. Cool, you've done all that. Then actually what you have to do is sit and look at workload and impact. And then you have to not live in your ideological world. Don't just be at the top being like, yeah, it'd be great if every single word is dual coded on everything because it's better for all the kids. You have to then, okay, cool, I'm going to reset now, look at what I've done, and I'm going to shift stuff. And it might be moving away from, I have to see it all the time because that reduces workload. Because currently, what I've done in my ideological world is going to impact staff 3, 4, 5 hours a week in their planning. So then at that point, you have to go, oh, that'd be great. Okay, cool. But you know what? I'm not going to ask them to go through and dual code everything because that's going to take hours and hours and hours. Yeah. Let's just do, instead of dual coding everything, we're just going to dual code the main 3 vocab words from that lesson.
Yeah.
Or a working wall, I've told them how to do that. Not really going to impact workload too much. We'll keep that there and we'll just say, guys, for a few weeks, instead of working on your whiteboard, can you just go over to your working wall? That's not going to impact workload. They can swallow their pride. Okay, they don't like it. Let's just do it for a month and see. There has to be those conversations there where I think you should always start with idealism and the best thing for the kids.
Yep.
And then you have to finish it off with, okay, but in the real world, what does this look like? How can I adjust things for my staff? Because if they're not happy, if they're burnt out, the kids are not going to get anything.
I agree. It's funny how much you can take from like the private world because we've had a business now for quite a few years. It's funny how we learned a lot of that stuff through the business world first, in terms of we were always like, oh, we should do all these things for our tutoring business, for example. We should do all these things. And there were so many times where we were like, yeah, these would all be great, but they would cost us loads of money. Like, there's a lot of resource power and time and money to do them. And it's just not worth doing. And it's the same sort of thinking, isn't it? It's like, yeah, your teachers and your literal resources and money are all part of your resources. And you can't just expend them, burn them out and be like, all of these things are better, so do all of them at once. I totally agree. Yeah. So there's lots of, it's almost as if it's a bit complex, and being a leader is really tricky. And you know what? Yeah. We don't big up leaders enough, apparently, according to people online. There's some fantastic leaders around in this country. There's so many amazing schools where people work at and they're totally happy because their leaders respect them and they give them the time of day and they think of all these things. And we love you guys. Keep doing your jobs well.
And we'd love you even more if you join our WhatsApp group. Link down in the
The
description
19th
below. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for all your questions. And we will be harvesting some more. But you know what? We had loads anyway. So we're going to work through those next time as well.
Sounds good.
Hayden, before we leave, anything you want to say?
Always pull your socks up.
Thank you.
Yep.